What's good, everybody? We are back to tip off another edition of a Shot of Wisky podcast brought to you by the good people over at New Amendment. As a part of Beyond the Big Ten Podcast Network, you can check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you get your podcasts, and on YouTube at Beyond Big Ten, not spelled out, but the number 10. Also, make sure to follow along on all socials, Twitter, IG, and TikTok with the handle at Beyond the Big Ten. Again, the number 10, not spelled out. I am Jordan Taylor, along with my guy, the best four-man in school history, 2011 second-round pick and All-American Jon Leuer. Johnny, we a week into the new year, and you doing big things out there, man. You in Philly this week, man. Fill us in. What you got going on?
Yeah, man, on the road and got a little franchising business venture that I'm involved with. Also have a little bit of a cold, so forgive me, audience, if you hear me coughing a little bit.
Yeah. Coronavirus? Well, God damn, that man over there is sick.
No, it's not all that.
Nah, but that's a beautiful thing, man. That's amazing. That's amazing. Congrats to you on the crumble thing. You know what we say? We always used to say you can't hide money. And you doing your thing on and off the court as usual. Man, we're going to jump right into it, though, man. We got the X's and O's this week, man. The Badgers went 1-2 over the last week. Got a win against Minnesota and losses against Michigan State and Indiana. We're going to do it a little different. So we're going to go game by game, man. Let's start with
Illinois, not Indiana.
I'm sorry, Illinois and Michigan State.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping to see that margin a little bit bigger, but obviously when Tyler Wall goes down, I'm just going to go right into something I liked was the fact that you lose your leading scorer and arguably best player, and guys rally around. It was a next man up mentality, and we were able to come out with a good win.
No doubt. I was going to say the same thing. I mean, not a lot in that game. I think we were up 15. I think the only thing you could say you don't like is being up 15 and kind of letting a team that's not as talented as you kind of come back on the road. But again, without Tyler Wall in the game, I think you got to give hats off to everybody. One thing I didn't like, Connor Essegian finally missed a free throw as well. 19 to 19 on the season. Finally had one rim out. But a lot of things to like you said. I think Max Klesmit was one thing. He kind of stepped up on Jamison Battle. Jamison, shout out another Minnesota-bred kid from Benilde St. Margaret's. Got shout that out. But Max did
Is he from Benilde?
He went to Benilde and transferred to De La Salle. Yeah, so a couple years.
Okay. You got up out of there.
Yeah, exactly. But no, Max Klesmit did a great job kind of taking that challenge on. And I think, again, still had some problems with the guards. Talon Cooper had a decent game, but obviously Chucky with the big steal down the stretch was nice to see. And just an overall game, like you said, nice response to Tyler Wall going out. I don't think too much to touch on there, so let's just move into Illinois first and then Michigan State. Those were, I think, the two bigger challenges. Obviously, the losses came, so I'll let you slide in there and let us know what you didn't like from the Illinois game.
Yeah, two things. One, I think what I didn't like was Hawkins going, 28% on the season from three, and he goes 6 for 9 in that game. That's just a tough break. You go into the game against a guy, and he's basically a non-shooter at 28%, and he gets hot like that. That's an unlucky law of averages that goes against you. Now, once he hit his first one or two, I think we had to do a better job of getting out of that drop coverage that we were in. Or either just moving Steven Crowell up more so that's a shorter closeout to get back to him. But we could have switched. We could have showed just something. I mean, the kid got hot, and you got to tip your cap to him. But I felt we could have adjusted a little quicker on that. And then the other thing I didn't like was Connor Essegian only getting, I think it was 5 shots, but he got 2 up late. So it was really only 3 shots. We got to find a way to get him more shots than that, right? It's not, especially with Tyler Wall going down.
Yeah.
I was expecting him to be almost featured in a focal point of the offense. And you look at the score, the box score after, and Marcus Ilver has more shots than Connor. So that's something that Marcus is coming along, but that's not something we want to see regularly, especially when Tyler's out.
Yeah, no question. Marcus Ilver's aggressiveness is one of the things I did like about the game He came in obviously this week, got a chance to play a lot or more. And he has no fear at all. Similar to Connor in a way, he has no fear at all.
I like his confidence.
love his confidence, but you're 100% right. Like, yeah, I don't know. We want Marcus taking more shots than Connor at this point in the season. However, that is something I think that Badger fans have to look forward to. Kind of a bright spot in and of itself. Even though he only went, I think he went 1 for 6 against Illinois, 2 for 5 against Michigan State. But Carter Gilmore as well. I think those guys did a great job at coming in and filling in. Trying to put pressure on defense and make other guys work and trying to be aggressive on the offensive end. I think they did about as well as they could given the circumstances and being put in that situation in probably what is our toughest stretch in the Big Ten, I'd say. Definitely toughest stretch of the season so far. And I think Illinois, Michigan State, Indiana is going to be, and 2 of those on the road is going to be the toughest stretch of the season. To go back to your point about Coleman Hawkins, I think that was one of the things that we talked about was his 3-point percentage. He's supposed to be a shooter. He was shooting 28% on the season. And, I was actually surprised we didn't switch the ball screens with Steven there. Coleman Hawkins isn't really a post-up threat that way. He's a little frail. So I would like to see us switch that. And Steven's done such a great job, like we've talked about so many times, at forcing guards into tough shots. But it was a tough challenge to go on the road without Tyler. I really liked how Chucky and Steven have taken on the roles of the offensive load over the past week. They both have taken a lot of shots. They both making plays. Chucky has been, I thought, really good, even though he didn't shoot it well against Michigan State. Steven as well. So that was something also to look forward to, like we talked about before. Guys gaining confidence when other guys are out. So. That being
100%.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say 100%. If there were 2 things I liked, it was Chucky and Steve because like you said, they asserted themselves with Tyler Wall out and really became the focal points of our offense. And then one other thing I liked, my man Hodges giving us a glimpse of what he can do. He just had 1 bucket. He was in there quick, but I like his frame. I like his athleticism. I think he's got potential. He's somebody to keep an eye on. I think we might see some more minutes out of him, especially with Tyler out.
It is interesting these days. I don't know if the coaches are softer or whatever it is, but these young kids do not care, man. They come in the game. Remember when we were in school, it was like, if you came in, it was like, you better not miss a defensive assignment. You came in a little timid on offense. Now these dudes be coming in like world beaters, coming in Steph Curry, like they're just pulling first possession, letting it fly. So I mean that is good to see and something that we can look forward to. But let's take a look at Michigan State. You've been going first, so go ahead and let me know what you thought of the Michigan State game.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going with what I didn't like first, I would say the shot selection by Chucky late in that game. Yeah. I thought that when we were down 2, he came down and shot a side step back 3 with no passes. It just didn't feel like that was the right shot at that time. And he's only a sophomore, but he's played enough to know that probably wasn't the best shot. I think that cost us dearly in that game. Mm-hmm. That was a possession where you had to get a great look, and you could have got that shot at any point. So that was one that definitely stood out. And then, I thought we could have defended a little better. Containing the ball. I thought their guards were able to get into the lane too much. So those are my 2 things.
I think that's been a theme all year is kind of guard play. Terrence Shannon, to bring it back to Illinois, Terrence Shannon kind of killed us as well. And that's been a theme, Appleby from Wake Forest. Guards have been killing us all year. Cam Jones and Marquette. Guys have been killing us all year off the bounce, putting pressure on our defense. So, the way the game is played, guys really work on their skill set more. So I think even more so than when we were playing, where guys are getting into these mid-range shots or these quick threes off the bounce and drop coverage. And those are really makeable shots now. So I think that's going to be something that Coach Gard and the coaching staff is going to have to look at moving forward. Because, I think the problem with it, especially against Illinois and Michigan State, was the guards get going and then the guys like Joey Hauser and Coleman Hawkins get going too. And then it's like an avalanche. You get same thing that we had when we were at school. If if, they're playing drop coverage and they're letting you pop over off on throwbacks and stuff like that, it's like, it's over, there's really no guarding that. So
no, for sure.
So that's just something that's going to have to be addressed. Like you said, the shot selection against Michigan State was a little rough down the stretch, but other than that, man, again, without Tyler to play that team, I had Michigan State as one of my top 3 teams going into the season, just the way they guard, the way they move the ball offensively and put pressure on the defense. So to be able to play them and really be in a position to win in that environment, I think was a huge takeaway. Again, I think Chucky got downhill, and it's another thing we've been talking about. He got downhill more so, I think, than he has all year. Like he was putting 2 feet in the paint, and really everybody was. Carter Gilmore was getting in the paint, Max was getting in the paint, and I was actually impressed at how well they attacked the defense off the bounce. I got a chance to talk to Sharif a little bit before the game, and I think they were kind of banking on, playing inside out with Steven. And, I think the guards really stepped up to the challenge at putting pressure on the Michigan State defense.
They did. Yeah, no, they did. And I think, Crowell again, right? He was our go-to guy. And we talked about this after he had that 25-point performance.
Yeah.
We said, would that be the spark that ignited him? I've been saying it all year. I thought he had more offensive potential, and man, he is showing it now. And he is becoming unstoppable on the block. Teams know he's getting to that right hand. He still finishes. He showed me a little up and under to get back to his left. So he's working on the next evolution off that move.
Yeah.
But man, if you're a Badger fan, you got to be excited about the progression and development that he's shown. And, I think, look, bottom line, if we have Tyler Wall, we win both those games. Yeah. I think we beat Illinois and we beat Michigan State. You're losing probably your best defender, for sure your most versatile defender. And then offensively, what he can do, he tilts the floor when he's posting up or in isolation situations, right? The defense has to load up to him. That's what I mean by tilt the floor. Yeah. We talked about that when I was with the Pistons when we traded for Blake Griffin. It was like, oh my gosh, the floor opens up for everybody else because it's like gravity when you have your best player out there playing at a high level like Tyler's been. So I think that frees up more shots for everybody. Missing him has been it's the elephant in the room, right? Everybody knows it. You probably win those 2 games if he's healthy.
100%. And to your point of tilting the floor with Chucky attacking that way with, obviously Carter Gilmore doesn't bring the same gravity that you speak of. So with Tyler back in, if you can continue to put pressure on defenses like that, I really like the potential of the offense if you can get the shot selection going. I thought there were some times too where Chucky and Steven, they're still working on that ball screen chemistry, when to slip, when to get rid of the ball. But again, those are just things. It's early in the year. We're 3-2 going into a big game against Indiana. So I think they're in a good spot. Obviously, you would have loved to have one of those wins. But the other thing I really liked about the Michigan State game was in the first half was Coach Guard's intensity, man. He was up on the sideline clapping. He was super engaged. And that's one thing that I can really appreciate about Coach Guard and just the way he coaches these guys. He is, I don't know if I'm going to say a player's coach, but he's a guy that he seems to love coaching these group of guys, and it seems to give them energy, which I think is huge in an 8 or in a 20 game Big Ten slate.
He does. Absolutely. And it seems like everybody is bought in and playing for him, playing together, but playing for him as well, which I think is crucial, especially as you move into this Big Ten season. You've lost a couple now, having that full buy-in from your players and belief in your head coach, it means a lot, it means a lot. And Coach Guard has definitely created that environment there.
Yep. No doubt, man. Well, like we said, 1-2, tough week. We get a chance to bounce back on Saturday against an Indiana team that is struggling. So we're going to get into the scouting report on them. They are 1-4 in the league, a team that was picked to finish to win the Big Ten at the start of the season. Obviously, Trace Jackson Davis, a Big Ten Player of the Year favorite and candidate, and also National Wooden Award finalist, things like that. They are mightily struggling without Xavier Johnson and Race Thompson, who are out indefinitely. So let's kind of hope that they don't come back Saturday, and let's hope that Tyler does come back Saturday. It's kind of word on the street that he might come back for Saturday's game. But Trayce Jackson-Davis had a game with 24 rebounds 2 games ago against Northwestern. They've been struggling. I think obviously Xavier Johnson's their guy that makes them go, and Race Thompson's a utility guy. But it's another challenge similar to Illinois, where you got a team that's struggling. You got to go on the road, and a really good team. So what are your thoughts on this one going in?
No, you took the words out of my mouth. That's what I was going to say. Just like Illinois, right? They were struggling, and you talk about when you're a struggling basketball team, you talk about a get right game, right? And we can't allow this to be Indiana's get right game. Like, it's not going to happen against us. You might get right down the road, but not against us, like Illinois did. Right now, they have confidence moving forward. But yeah, I mean, you look at their schedule, and they just lost by 20 to Penn State. If you go by like opponents, right, against Kansas, they lost by 20. Obviously, we had Kansas beat. Badger fans will remember that game, but. I think this is one we should be able to control the tempo, even without Tyler out there. He might be out there. It'd be great if he is, but, we should be able to control the tempo, impose our will, and play at our pace. And this is one that I don't think should cause us too many issues, but you can lose to anybody in the Big Ten.
Yeah, no question. It's Assembly Hall. You know how Assembly is. It's loud. Those rims are tight. Indiana has the second best offense in the conference. We're top 4 in defense as always, so that matchup should be interesting. Jalen Hood-Schifino is averaging 22 and 5 his last 3 contests as well, so that's another guard challenge that we'll have to deal with. So I would imagine Max is going to get that. Max Klesman's going to get that assignment early on. But that it's going to be fun to watch to see how we respond, especially without Xavier Johnson. They're a good 3-point shooting team, about 37% as a team, got a couple 40% shooters. But I think it's going to be important defensively to crowd Trayce Jackson-Davis, to crowd Jalen Hood-Schifino, make them see bodies, and then make sure you close out to the shooters like Tamar Bates and guys like that. So it's like I said, it's gonna be interesting how we attack these ball screens with Jalen Hood-Schifino. We showed some hedging with Steven Crowell against Michigan State. Obviously Trayce Jackson-Davis out of the post. I don't think we'll have too many. He's good, but it's obviously something that I think you play one-on-one with Tyler and Steven Crowell. But with Jalen Hood-Schifino, if he goes off for 33 like he did a couple games ago, then it could be a long night. It could get ugly very fast for us. So that's kind of my fear for this game going in.
Yeah, and then my fear, also I heard that our fellow podcaster Christian Watford said that Indiana was not going to lose a game at home this year. And my fear, I don't have any fear actually.
I don't know what the fear is with that.
Because I don't even really hear that because we never lost to Indiana. I mean, when we were at school, I went 9-0 against them. I think you went 8-0. We had a stretch where we won 16 in a row against them.
Yeah.
So we don't really hear when Indiana starts talking. Our
fear is that Christian Watford is going to be on freezing cold takes one of these days because he said that Indiana lost to Northwestern of all teams. No disrespect to Juice Thompson and them boys over there, but lost to Northwestern, man. Like, how you can't make a statement like that and then lose to Northwestern. Michigan State, Wisconsin, okay, but Northwestern, they might have to shut his podcast down over there, man. That's crazy. That's OD.
That's one of the all-time bad takes, right
man,
there.
for sure. But Christian Watford, man, good dude, had a hell of a career in Indiana. Maybe should stay away from the proclamations. It sounds like Charles Barkley over there, man. But let's move into the word on campus. Man, we got, like we said, obviously, like we've talked about at length, Indiana coming up. Let's just talk about Tyler Wall and his injury. Coming back from an ankle injury. I think, was it your junior year, you had an ankle? No, you broke your hand.
Broke your
wrist. So just tell us from your experience, obviously both 4 men, what it's like kind of going through an injury in the middle of the Big Ten season like that. and then trying to come back and get your rhythms, which will be the challenge for Tyler.
Yeah. No, number one, it's heartbreaking. Like when I broke my wrist, I thought initially the doctor said season was over for me.
Yep.
And I just remember being in tears, when he told me that, because I wanted to be out there with you guys, right? Like I felt like I was letting my teammates down. And I know the type of kid Tyler is, how much he loves the game, how much he loves the university, how much he loves his teammates. Like I know it's just killing him right now. And luckily this is a much more minor injury than a broken bone. But I've heard his ankle is in rough shape. So, that's one that if you don't let it heal fully, can linger and you try to rush back and now you're not the same player that you were. So my advice to him would just be get it all the way right. We'll need you for February and March, right? Don't rush back. And I remember my first game back against Minnesota, trying to rush back, and I was just all out of whack, all out of rhythm. It took me a couple games. So, I expect to see a little bit of that from him, knock the rust off when he finally does get back. But man, we need him because he is the heart and soul of the team.
No doubt. I think college too. It's almost, you're somewhat removed. Europe, you still have it. I know in the NBA, obviously not as much, but some of that, like you said, the emotional weight of college games, because especially in the Big Ten, every game matters so much. Where it's like if you miss 3 and your team goes 1-2, it's like the end of the world. You know what I mean? So for him, I think it's gonna be a challenge emotionally, especially early on, just to kind of let the game come to you, not try and force things. It's kind of like when you're down. I don't want to say you're down 20. It's somewhat of a rough analogy, but when you miss time, it's like you're trying to get everything back at once. You want to have 20, 25 that first game. You want to make an impact right away, right? So it's like so I think that's gonna be a huge challenge for Tyler as he comes back.
And you look at, late in the season, Big Ten standings, right? I remember when I broke my wrist and missed those 8 games, and we end up not winning the Big Ten by 1 game in the standings. And that 1 game that we lost when I was out, you guys did a hell of a job. I think we went like 7-1, but we lost to Illinois, and man, I used to cook them. Mike Davis, Mike Tisdale. Oh man, I used to get loose against Illinois. I know we would have won that game. So that's tough. You look back at your junior year, and we definitely would have won the Big Ten. I think if we could have got that game against Illinois with me healthy, but that's just how it goes. And you got to have a next man up mentality. But we'd have another ring on our finger, I think, if we could have got that one.
Man, no question. Let's take a look, man, real quick. With the word on campus, let's take a look at kind of the mentality of the entire team. Obviously you start 3-0. They're 3-2 now. What do you think their locker room looks like? What do you think the energy in the locker room is like at this point in time?
Well, not to stay on the Tyler Wall train, but I think a lot of it is looking over at him like, hey bro, you ready? Because come on now, we need you. So I think that's weighing on everybody. Like I said, best player, leading scorer, best defender, and you're kind of conscious of that. Like, all right, he might be back this game. Like that changes your whole kind of mentality and mindset, doesn't it? I mean, it has to, yeah. And that's weighing heavy in the locker room right now. I know for sure of the coaches and players.
No doubt. I think, I think it's one of those games. I hope it's not one of those games where guys start to press. Honestly, where it's like you're 3-2. This is a game where you started out 3-0, and now it's like you look up and you're 3-3 all of a sudden. It's like damn, what happened? You know what I mean? So I don't want to say it's obviously not a must-win game, but it's one of those games where at the very least, I think it kind of makes or breaks your season in a way, at least at this early juncture. Where if you win, you're 4-2. Now you're, I think it's just like, wow, yeah, like we just made it through that stretch. We had some tough games, and then now we can go on and win the Big Ten. Where it's like if you're 3-3, the mountain that you have to climb seems a little bit steeper. And the energy changes up a bit. So, I think this is for sure the biggest game of the season. Like we just talked about in the Big Ten, every game is always the biggest game of the season. But But this one, I just
I'm gonna pull a Bo Ryan on you right now, Jordan. It's the biggest game because it's our next game on the schedule.
Right. Yeah, we always know that was nonsense. Like, nah, it wasn't a big game. We play in Northwestern and we up. You know, what I'm saying? They're 2-11. Like, nah, we're good. But I guess.
But I hear exactly what you're saying. It is that point where guys might start pressing and you just want to get back in that win column. And you know, like you said, it's a big mountain to climb. 4-2 and 3-3 sounds a lot different. So you're absolutely right. This is going to be a crucial game for us and against an opponent that on paper is inferior. That we should be able to handle.
Yeah. From a coaching standpoint, obviously Tyler's our leading scorer. Steven has been the last 3 games. What would you like to see more of offensively and defensively going forward?
I'd like to see more action run for Connor Essegian offensively. Yeah. You know, I think especially that Illinois game, right? He had it going early.
Yeah.
And that's when a shooter like that gets hot, you got to find ways to keep getting him shots.
Yeah.
You know, you have to because he could, you know, he's got the ability to make 5, 6, 7 threes in a row, and that just blows the doors open, right? So I think just getting him involved in as much action as possible, especially with Tyler out, right? Just running staggers, running pin downs for him. The more action you can get him involved in, the more confusion it's going to create on the floor. Guys might switch, they might not, and he's going to get open looks. But standing in the corner, he's not going to get as many of those. So I think that's an adjustment I'd like to see. What about you?
I think backtracking a little bit, watching the Penn State Indiana game, they actually really put pressure on Indiana with down screens with Seth Lundy and Jalen Pickett. They did a lot of that against Indiana, and I think to use your word, those 2 guys have a lot of gravity, and it put a lot of pressure on the Indiana defense. I think, like you said, at times Connor got it going early against Michigan State, and I think that he was a spark plug against Michigan State.
Against Michigan State. I'm sorry.
So he was a spark plug, scoring 10 points in the first half, and then again, I think we kind of got away from it in the second half. And I'd be interested to hear your opinion, but to me, again, using the word, I think Connor in this offense almost holds more gravity than Tyler. I think he could. I don't think he does. I think he could. I think that. Just his, especially with our tendency to get stagnant. You know, we tend to get stagnant and the rhythm goes down. And I guess when we talk about rhythm, it's not necessarily taking quick shots or playing fast, but it's playing at a pace where, guys are getting open, bodies moving, the ball is moving. Even if you hold the ball for 30 seconds, there's a certain rhythm about the game that Wisconsin has to have to score points. And I think Connor does that more than anybody on this team. And maybe, again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Maybe in Wisconsin history, just the way he runs around without the ball. I haven't seen a lot of dudes do that.
No, he does, man. And believe me, he's turning some heads too. I've been taught, I know a lot of NBA scouts, and they, one of them I was talking to in particular, he was like, man, that kid, I like that kid a lot. So he's turning a lot of heads. I think, as the season rolls on more and more, he'll get more and more national respect and attention for how great of a freshman he is. But yeah, I think you made a good correction. I think he could be that in that offense over Tyler. But that would be, Tyler is just so good in isolation situations where you talk about the gravity of the floor. Like it just tilts the floor too much. Yeah. I think at this point in Connor's career to surpass what Tyler does.
Yeah, that's probably true. And then the last point I want to touch on too, I guess that we need to improve on, especially with Indiana going to Indiana. Trace Jackson Davis is a monster on the boards, and Wisconsin is at the bottom of the conference in rebounds and last in the Big Ten in offensive rebounds. I don't know how many times in the past 20 years we could say that about a Wisconsin team. So I know we talked about that, and that's one thing you said you didn't see continuing, but it kind of remains to be troubling. So what can we do? What can we do about that, if anything?
I think we rely too much on Steven Crowell to just grab, the rebounds, and Tyler Wall. I think it's just got to be a collective thing, right? All 5 guys got to go to the boards, especially defensively, right? Nobody should be leaking out. It's just got to be a collective thing. Every time somebody checks in, right, it's got to be a point of emphasis. Hey, crash the glass. block out. And Wisconsin's always been one of the best teams in the league, in the country, really, at blocking people out. So I think, that's just, you got to get back to that. All 5 guys collectively have to do a better job with whoever's out there.
No question. I think with the fly trap defense or the drop covers too, when the guard goes to the rim, I think one thing we haven't been doing a good job of is, like you said, the guards aren't doing a great job of boxing out and trying. And I think the rules are a little bit different now with the way you can box out and put hands on guys. But something that we'll definitely have to look forward to, or look for moving forward, and especially this week against Indiana. But I am excited for what's coming. Like we said, hopefully move to 4-2 this week. That is going to wrap up another episode or another edition of a Shot of Wisky podcast. Again, check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you get your podcasts, and on YouTube at Beyond Big Ten. Also on all socials, Twitter, IG, and TikTok at Beyond the Big Ten. I am Jordan Taylor for Jon Leuer signing off, and we'll catch y'all next time.
Beyond the Big Ten is a network of podcasts that aims to be your go-to resource for all things Big Ten. We cover the entire conference with shows hosted by ex-players and athletic alumni, aiming to be your go-to source of information and entertainment for your favorite team. Hosted by ex-Big Ten players, media, and insiders, our podcasts are focused on giving diehard fans and those alums an inside scoop about the teams and people that make the Big Ten Conference one of the most watched and most talked about conferences in sports. We're excited to talk Big Ten basketball with you wherever you may be. Subscribe now.